Please all rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming to this Board of Trustees meeting, January 22nd. We start off the meeting with comments from the public. Now, a lot of you signed up, but if you have a comment that relates to the laws on the leaf blower and on landscapers, you might want to wait until the public session and speak then rather than now, unless you're in a rush. I think Sheila Pfeiffer, you had...
Yeah, Pfeiffer, yeah. Good evening, everyone. Sheila Pfeiffer, 56 Hildreth Street. I think most of you know my face by now. And as you know, I'm recently returned to the village, so I'm catching up on a lot of stuff that may or may not have happened. But I'm extremely interested in supporting the International Dark Sky Association, or really I should call it a movement. And I wanted to find out what the village was doing, and I went to the website of the village and found the Village Review of Built Conditions and Regulations, which came out in May of 2018, in which it states that there is a need to address light trespass, among other things. That's section 9.9. And then it talks about strategy H5, having to do with night sky regulations that control light trespass and up lighting. That was back in May. I wasn't here then, and I haven't heard it mentioned at any meetings since then that I might have happened to be at. I haven't been at every one. So my comment is a question to ask the board what's being done to address this issue, and if you need more documentation other than that which is found in the Southampton Town Regulations, the East Hampton Town Regulations, the Southold Town Regulations, I would be happy to do some research for you, but I'm hoping to hear that something is underway.
What is it that you're looking for, Sheila?
I'm looking for lights that do not create glare, that do not go up into the sky so that the night sky is polluted, and that do not trespass neighbor to neighbor, in a very obvious way.
Down-angle capped lights.
Capped lights, in other words, and
we did do something
various
before,
other...
any new lighting to put this down.
No, but I know the boards seriously look at any lighting that goes outside property boundaries.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you know that the town has a whole bunch of, illustrations and guidelines and their quick guide. I read those. They seem sensible and certainly a very significant start if the village were to enact what the town does. I haven't gone around to pinpoint, oh, this light is wrong and that light, I'm just speaking on general terms, and I do sometimes see things that are pretty egregious, but I haven't come with a list.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that, rather than lead this whole list, that signed up here that has a comment reserved for the landscaping public hearing? No?
Anything but.
Anything but. Sorry.
Anything not pertaining to the landscaping or the blower noise, that's what there's a chance to speak. We'll assume everybody's here for those two things.
So move ahead. There's no board presentations. And then as discussed on the public hearing, we have the proposed law, annual registration of landscapers. So I'll make a motion to open the proposed local law, annual registration of landscapers, public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, before you proceed, what I may suggest is that because you have proposed these laws, they're sort of intertwined, and
Yes.
you might want to open both, and that way make it easier for the public to comment on both laws at the same time.
Okay, we can do that. I just didn't want to get them. So with that said, at the same time, the proposed local law on nuisances, unnecessary noise from construction and property maintenance, make a motion to open that proposed local law.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
If you want me to give you
Yes, if you could.
preamble. So for over the last year, this board has entertained comments, as well as you've had meetings with, I'll call them stakeholders, both landowners, homeowners, residents, as well as businesses, including landscape businesses, the Long Island and Nassau Suffolk Landscape Grounds Association, representatives on the comments related to particular noise. I understand you also had a meeting that was dedicated to what was quiet communities. And so this board heard all those comments, and you directed my office to prepare some legislation to get it formally before the public so that you can hear comments. Out of those discussions came two elements. One was that there was unnecessary noise being generated from a number of activities related to construction or property maintenance, landscaping, but in particular from gas-powered leaf blowers. And so we have one proposal here that would identify that certain activities related to construction inherently are a nuisance, can be considered a nuisance. Also, certain activities related to certain activities of property maintenance and landscaping also can consider to be a nuisance if they were operating during certain hours of the day, particularly the evening hours or certain hours on the weekends. In addition, you identified through all the information you received that gas-powered leaf blowers operating at a certain decibel exceed your normal nuisance levels as well as your noise ordinance levels. And if they're operated improperly or otherwise, can constitute a nuisance. Presently, we have a noise ordinance that would prohibit the use beyond a certain decibel. But as we all know, is the enforcement of that, because the leaf blowers are intermittent, of actually witnessing that and getting the complaint and acting on that is harder to do. But when the activity is actually listed, the use of it as a nuisance, it's easier to enforce. So the one proposed law would identify that as a nuisance, and there are certain conditions related to that, and we can go through that in a little bit of a detail. But what came out of the discussions associated with that was also the educational component of allowing, particularly our landscape community, to be educated on the proper use of leaf blowers, because in certain instances, the field has been noticing that there's the improper use, and thus causing the nuisances that we undertake. But also, the technology has not evolved to a point where the alternatives are necessarily available. But there are alternatives that have been evolving, particular electric use of leaf blowers. And the issue primarily has come up as to the use and the timing of these leaf blowers. And what this proposed local law would identify the times of the day, but also the times of the week, but also the times of the season when these leaf blowers, gas-powered leaf blowers, could be used or should not be used because they would arise to a nuisance level. So in particular, The construction limitations that are proposed are identical to what is currently in the noise ordinance, in that construction work could not occur earlier than 8 a.m. or nor later than 6 p.m. on any weekday, no earlier than 9 a.m. or later than 5 p.m. on Saturdays, and all construction work would be prohibited on Sunday and federal and state holidays. Similarly for property maintenance and landscaping. And then as far as the use of gas-powered leaf blowers, the board recognized immediately, and this came up in all the discussions, that gas-powered leaf blowers have a certain power and would be necessary until such time as the technology evolves, such that they could be used during the fall and particular spring cleanups. However, the board determined that the use of the gas-powered leaf blowers between the dates of May 15th and September 30th are problematic and probably more than unnecessary, particularly the amount of work that could be done or needed to be done during those times is not the same as the cleanups that are necessary in the spring and the fall. So they are the dates, and there's also times that would be prohibited. There are certain exceptions, and there are also some additional limitations combining leaf blowers and the like. So that has to do with the nuisance part of it. The second law that came out of the discussions had to do with the educational component, and so, in examining what other communities do, most communities, and this was a recommendation from the Nassau-Suffolk Landscape Grounds Association, was for the village to consider or reconsider some sort of home improvement license or registration of landscapers, similar to some other communities where they've done that, which registration would allow the village to provide for the education to the landscapers and the education of our ordinances and the rules and compliance with that. And that registration would require an annual registration of a landscaper that would be done through the village hall, and there would be stickers available for their vehicles. And to get a registration, it would require proof of a current and valid Suffolk County home improvement license. And in addition, if the landscaper is to use regulated chemicals or pesticides, they need proof of the New York State DEC certificate that is required for that currently, as well as if the landscaper intends to apply for fertilizer products, would be proof of the certificate of completion from the Suffolk County Nitrogen Fertilizer Turf Management course, which is currently required by Suffolk County. So, but most importantly, it would require that the registered landscaper acknowledge that they have reviewed and will comply with the village's nuisance law, particularly as to the dates and times that activities are allowed, in particular with respect to the gas-powered leaf blowers. This ordinance was modeled after a couple laws that we've seen that have been adopted over the last 2 or 3 years. One in particular, the Village of Irvington, we modeled the landscape registration after the Village of Irvington, which has been so far successful. So I'm sure there's other details, but I'd love to hear what all the comments are.
Mayor, before we take comment from the folks who are here tonight, I want to inform you that in your packet are 16 communications that the village clerk's office received from the public via email or letter, and that they will be added to the record of this hearing. Of the 16, all 16 voiced in favor of the local law.
Thank you. Before we get any public comment, is there any comments from the trustees?
Right now.
Trustee? What I'll do then is I'll go through, some of you have listed your name here. We'll start review, and then we'll take additional public comments. And first on this list is Walter Stretch.
evening. Thank you for letting us be here tonight for hearing. I would like to say a few things about the leaf blowers, if that's appropriate at this time.
Yes, it is.
Just want to make sure.
Can you just state your name and address?
I'm sorry, yes. I'm Walter Scretch, 90 Woolley Street, Southampton. Yes. I certainly understand the homeowner's right and desire to keep his or her property nice, and I equally understand the landscaper's desires to have a job that helps us all make everything nice. That's why our community is nice. However, I strongly support your proposal to limit gas-powered leaf blowers and to encourage electric alternatives. I know that there have been many defenses, and I think they're justified on the part of landscapers. They say that they need to replace equipment, they need to repair equipment, they need to buy new equipment, more equipment. They have to charge more to their customers because of that. They might lose business of customers in the case of going to electric. While those are all true, I think they always have been true. All people involved in landscaping, like any other business, have to replace, repair, or renew equipment. And I suspect that all of us, as citizens of this community, have had that price factored into what we pay. So other than the fact that the equipment is different, I don't think that the charges would be very much different. They have to do it anyway. This past summer, I'm on Woolley Street, not far from here. There were 2 times in which I went out to our backyard, and it happened that in the, I guess I will say, contiguous area, which includes across our street, there were 4 different companies doing their landscaping job involving grass and leaves and leaf blowers. And I have to tell you, the noise was more than intolerable. It was really surround sound at its best. And when it finally ended, I had that feeling you have when the band is playing too loud, of a kind of hollow ringing in my ears for a while. I don't think that's the quiet piece of the community that we're looking for. And
3 minutes.
that was something that disturbed me. I think the idea that things are going to cost money, people are going to suffer, and all that, is a bit of faulty logic. If we use a similar logic, I think then we should all try to perhaps double the amount of garbage that we make each day, so that we can make sure that no garbage collectors go out of business. Business owners have always had to repair and replace, and they will continue to, and I'm sure make adjustments accordingly. Some rhetorical questions I have are, do leaf blowers need to be used in the summer months when there are no leaves, unless they're planning to blow them off the tops of the trees? We mulch. We have a mulching mower, which means that the grass clippings get mulched, get fed into the grass, where they become fertilizer, which has been considered to be very good for the environment. I'm not sure why we have to blow every blade of grass around or off the property so it looks perfect. I don't know.
Mr. Stretch, not to interrupt you, but There's a long list,
Okay.
and if you could wrap it up, that would be,
I certainly will, thank you.
but we appreciate your comments.
May I make my last comment?
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you, sir. We, including myself, since I was a kid, talked about the environment. We've listened to things about the environment. We've studied the environment. We've researched the environment. We've even seen the future of the environment. I've gone places where new equipment, new solutions are available. What we've not done enough of is act. So you, this board, is in a position to act. Please do the right thing. Vote in favor of the proposal, please, to limit gas power leaf blowers and encourage the use of electric equipment. I've heard that this should happen in the future. Well, the future is now, and our future is in your hands. Please don't drop it. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, may I just suggest, is just to remind everybody, 3 minutes, but I believe that the board is not going to close this hearing, so that everybody knows that you'll have another opportunity if you'd like, but also, written comments will go a long way. And I believe the gentleman had a letter that he was reading. It would be helpful maybe if you do have such a thing, summarize it, because you're in your 3 minutes, and then submit the letter. I'm sure we'll remember it a lot more if you submit the letter.
Yes, if you could try to keep it down to 3 minutes, it would be appreciated.
Otherwise, we'll be here all night.
Those who leave early, you should tell them the next day.
Well, yeah. We can, just so that you know, this is going to be probably scheduled continuously, and the next date is March 14th, I believe. We weren't going to have the second hearing in February because a lot of you have a break and children, and you got other things going on, and we need your input. So with that said, Hillary Woodward.
I'm Hillary Woodward, and I live at 151 Edgewood Woods Road in Southampton. And I wrote a 3-minute piece. The belief that power in machinery is the only way has spread like a tumbleweed, gathering nonsense across the East End. Each generation of property professionals are blowing quieter traditions down the road. And now, with the issue before us, there's talk of expensive rechargeable battery-powered tools, which are still quite loud, by the way. Here is a novel approach for small property owners in Southampton Village: reel mowers, that's R-E-E-L, rakes, and brooms. Landscape companies should offer services of human-powered tools for the health of the client, their neighborhood, and employees, and I can see chuckling going on. I ran a small company called Real Quiet Mowing. My business partner and I use state-of-the-art reel push mowers, rakes, brooms, rechargeable edgers, and occasionally a rechargeable blower for walkways and pool areas. Our clients were happy with the quality and the environmental benefits. When we launched Real Quiet, to the sort of amazement of most people, many people wanted our service but could not discontinue a long-standing relationship with their guy. We encouraged them to request our ideas. Our overhead was very low. Cost and maintenance of the simple tools was minimal. Everything was purchased locally. Our work time on small village properties typically equaled high-powered crews nearby. And we were two ladies of a certain age. Often, we were packing up the tools while a leaf-blowing crew across the street was still corralling the 10 leaves to their pile. We did not block the streets with large trucks. All of our tools packed into an SUV. Offering a sustainable service like Real Quiet would accomplish two things for a healthy village: reduction of neighborhood noise on properties with less than 1/3 of an acre of mowable, rakeable area. Many properties now have minimal lawn area due to pools and outdoor living spaces. These are the perfect size for hand tools. Secondly, reduction of environmental and public health costs. Limiting power blowers will diminish excessive dust inhaled by anyone nearby, and especially those who operate the machinery daily, which generally are young men whose future health could be compromised from those hazards. When Real Quiet was operating, people often stopped to ask about the mowers. They always said, "We need this," in naming many Long Island towns that struggle daily with noise pollution. One person from Palm Beach, Florida, begged us to start in his gated community, stating every homeowner would hire you. We stopped after 2 years, not for lack of success, but with the hope that a younger, energetic entrepreneur might take it a step further, or even miles further. The challenge is to escape the herd mentality. We know what works for change: one bold, forward-thinking homeowner and/or professional willing to try something different. Not long ago, Southampton was a quiet community. Let's give choice to property owners and restore peaceful streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Sally Van Allen?
I'm Sally Van Allen at 49 North Main Street, Southampton, New York. I'm very excited to see that these two laws are being proposed together, because I think they go hand in hand. And as you recall, as I recalled anyway, last fall, the issue that was facing so many of the landscapers was that by wanting to give up gas mowers and gas blowers was not something they could do because of the competition from people that were not licensed to do lawn service. And that really resonated with me, because we do all love this community because it's so beautiful, and it's so beautiful because of the commitment of our landscapers. But I do feel that blowing grass off the top of a lawn during the summer, even though they think that their homeowners want that, I think if the homeowners were educated that they'd save money on fertilizer, it's better for the lawn. The lawns get 20% of their nitrogen from those grass cuttings, and I think that they'll want it. I mean, the other thing is that they think, oh no, they want to spend all this money, and frankly, Bobby and Buffy Billionaire are that way because they watch their pennies. And so I don't think they're the problem in a way, even though we think that they're the problem. But if they know what we're doing to the environment, I do think that they would be willing and open to new techniques. I also feel that this is just a great combination of these two laws, in that I can't believe how quickly the village acted in terms of responding to the needs of our landscapers. I'm really impressed that happened last fall, and now by this summer there'll be regulations so that they don't have undue competition from companies that don't pay living wage, or don't pay workers' comp, or don't have the appropriate insurance, and that can work all hours because they don't have to pay overtime. So I'm glad that they're protected, but I think the quid pro quo is that the landscapers limit their time per this legislation to those hours. It's not if you're not using your blowers, it might not take so long, but I think the 8 to 6 is a huge improvement, and as well as not using the blowers when it's not necessary. And I get the wet leaves in the hedges. I think we all understand that. You can get rakes that do get into those hedges, but I won't go there. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sally. Orson Cummings?
Orson Cummings, 57 Walnut Street. Thank you.
You can stand up.
All right, great. First, thank you very much. I've obviously been in tune to the leaf blower side of this for some time, and I read the legislation. I thought it was terrific. I agree I don't need to be redundant. I was pleased to see what seemed to be kind of a balance between allowing the licensing which the landscapers really wanted and made sense to me, and this leaf blower adjustment. So thank you. I will make the position, one, just also as a year-round resident. I think it's great in the summer. I know the landscapers probably would like more out of this. As a year-round resident, I'd rather have them banned all year long, because I'll be here in the fall working at home during the day, as I do, and then they'll come out again, and it'll be like, Halloween or something. But I understand, and I'll take it half a loaf for me. I think it's terrific, so thank you. With respect to the environment, first the equipment, I'll just say I've put for the record a video that I got from Quiet Communities of a gentleman using one of the state-of-the-art electric blowers, and he used it, he said, on the worst environment ever. It had just snowed, it had rained, it was the absolute worst situation, and he blew and demonstrated how effective this thing was. So, I think the equipment is out there, obviously, and I appreciate that it's expensive. So I don't mean to diminish that point for the landscapers, but I think it's come a long way and there's no going back. So the second thing I just wanted to say about the pollution side of things, which even though we ban them in the summer and they come back in the fall, it's not just my noise problem, which I think is fair for a quiet community, it's also the pollution side. And I want to thank you for the work on nitrogen and fertilizer and the pollution side, because as I look at Lake Agawam, the news we all got about the state of affairs there is pretty desperate. And as a surfer, for the first time when Agawam was draining into the ocean, I was there when this effluvium stuff was coming out, and I remembered being in California, in Venice, when people said you can't go in the water and surf, even though there are waves, because you get so sick. And this was the first time I realized, well, maybe that's coming here, and I certainly love to surf and be in the water. It's a really important part of my life, and a lot of us who live here, it's important. So I think that's also equally really important. And they go hand in hand, that we don't need to be, there seems to be a revolution in terms of how much grass clipping and blowing and stuff we're doing. So I think this is a great first step, and thank you very much.
Do you have anything that you want to add to the record? You can send it to the village clerk's office.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And excuse me if I get this wrong, but I believe it's Pat Voges?
It's
Okay.
Hi, Pat Voges, Nassau Suffolk Landscape Association. First of all, I want to thank you for acting on everything that we talked about at the last hearing. I'm sorry.
Charlie, can we get some volume on that?
Too much, I'm going to get feedback.
Okay.
Just a little if you can.
Okay, you guys were fantastic, okay? Fantastic on picking up on the unlicensed landscapers. I think you did a great job. My husband's going to talk about it a little bit more. But I want to tell you something with these blowers. I mean, to go back and go all through this again is ridiculous. But I'm running a trade show on Thursday for landscapers at Suffolk Community College. And I want to tell you, I have 150 vendors coming. I invited every one of these companies that put out these battery-operated machines, and not one of them took a booth. They're not trying too hard to get the landscapers to buy their equipment. It's just, we try, we really do. I also have here for you a set of letters from Don Mahoney, who everybody knows, who couldn't be here tonight, and his complaints or his wishes and whatever. I'm not going to, he wanted me to read it. There's no way I'm reading his 6-page letter. So I'll leave you copies of it. And again, the blower training, if your town wants it, we're more than willing to come out here and do it for your landscapers. Just let us know what we can do for you. We're here to help you.
Thank you. Trish?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we just switched.
Hey, you always let the woman go first, right?
Absolutely.
He said chivalry is dead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, trustees, for letting us talk. My name is H. Pat Voges. I am the Government Affairs Chairman for the 1,500 members of the Nassau Suffolk Landscape Grounds Association. We're all for this. Okay, as far as your landscaping law, I only have one question and one fault. The question is, how are you going to enforce it? Because a law without enforcement's a joke.
Yep.
Okay? So how are you going to enforce it? That's what we come down to. We work on enforcement with DEC, Suffolk Consumer Affairs, and Nassau Consumer Affairs. So if you need some help with that, okay, we would be more than happy to go into that.
Probably will reach out to you.
Okay. The other thing is, one comment on the law itself. I don't know where you came up with the fee of $225, but that's steep. That's kind of steep. And I don't know the difference between a landscaper and a business. Why is one 100 and one is, I don't understand that. But, okay, that's neither here nor there. That's financial, and I'm sure that can be worked out. All right? As far as, like she said, you want blower training, we'd love to come out there. We actually certified the guys. We give them little cards so that when you can see when they're working at your house, if they've been blower trained, or they're still back to the point of going out there and going, okay?
It was pretty good.
Not the way to work it. Okay? The other thing I'm going to say is, I sit on the lineup committee, the Long Island Nitrogen Committee that's going on right now, and quite frankly, one of the recommendations of that committee, and that's run by the DEC and Long Island Regional Planning Commission, okay? One of the recommendations that's going to come out of that is leave the grass clippings on the lawn. And that's exactly what we want. That would save us a fortune. Okay, taking it away is a terrible thing. We're taking the nitrogen back off the lawn, don't make any sense. Okay, so there are other things going on that correspond with what you're doing here. And again, any help that we can give you, if you could give us just a little bit more time on a blower in the spring and the fall, it would not only help us, it would also help the aesthetics of your village, because your times are a little short. We just worked out the same a landscaping law with town of North Hempstead, which you'll read about in tomorrow morning's Newsday. And they give us just a little bit more time. Again, we worked that out with them, and you'll find that would be an advantage to the village aesthetically and financially. Okay? You know where to find us? Okay? And we support this 100%.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Ben Cummings.
Ben Cummings, 57 Walnut Street. Good evening, board, fellow citizens. I just wanted to speak briefly, and I'll send a letter in support, more detail, that I'm firmly in favor of the proposed legislation, both the licensing and hour restrictions and the leaf blowers. I'm someone who works from home, and I'm personally affected by the noise. I've also worked as a landscaper, where perhaps before the invention of the leaf blower, we used heavy metal attachments and humped the clippings up into a truck and took them to the dump. It wasn't fun, but it was quiet. The reason we all live here and love this community is because of the peace and quiet. That's why we're not in the city. And for rest, recreation, relaxation, which are also the bases essentially for our economy now. The leaf blower regulations will help promote those things that make it nice to live here year-round and nice to be here in the summer. And so I applaud your attention to the matter. And like I said, I'll send a letter with more detail to follow up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Brendan Dwyer.
Good evening, it's Brendan O'Dwyer, Summerhill Landscapes, 6 Shaw Road, Sag Harbor. I just want to say we're in agreement with the licensing of the hours and the town, also with the education of users of the blowers. one thing with the battery-operated blowers, we're not sure if they're fully there yet with the length of time that the batteries last. So I think that needs to be looked into further, and possibly even some incentives or grants for companies willing to go that direction. So, thank you.
Thank you. The next, I'm not sure the last name, it's Evan? Okay.
Being Mayor and Trustees, I'm with the NSLGA as well. I'm the Suffolk Chapter President. As Mr. and Mrs. Pat said, we're in favor of this. Seeing any enforcement is what we're going to need to say, because, I maintain 17 different village, state, and local licenses, township licenses, and my guys go years without a license being checked. As long as there's a sticker, as long as there's something for, you and everybody else to look and go, oh, okay, yeah, that guy's licensed. If that's not there, it's worthless. At this point, we have a paper tiger, and that's not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah.
As far as the noise from the blowers, they have decreased it over the years. I think it's gone down some 90%, and get that in a minute. In 15 years, they've decreased the sound of the blowers tremendously. My family's business started in '76 in Shirley. And, my father moved west, for family purposes, but that's neither here nor there. But, as long as you enforce it, because the blower is going to cost over $1,000 to get one with 2 batteries and a charger. A typical blower is $400. That's not a small expense. And that's for one. A lot of companies need several. Perhaps proof of, waiving that fee the first year. Okay, look, I bought my blower. Waive the fee. Make an incentive for these guys. The profit margins they're working on is tiny. It's not 5 or 10%, sometimes it's 2 or 3.
No, we realize that.
Could you state your last name again?
Jacko, D-A-C-K-O-W.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Em. Kathy Bellows.
Kathy Bellows, 52 Lewis Street. I just want to repeat what that gentleman said, and that is, I support the laws, and I think most landscapers would, as long as there is strict enforcement. You can't have a few people following the law and nobody else. And I know that that's often the case in this village. It can be selective enforcement. Right now, we have no ordinance enforcer that we can call, and I think that that will be necessary to have someone that you can call to report violations. And I also think you need the police to patrol, because we often see landscapers working until midnight, at least till dark time, at least till it gets dark, and nobody does anything about it. Right now, I think you have to quit working at 7 p.m., but you can go in the village and it's full of people working, trimming hedges. So I think that if you want to pass a law with landscapers registering, you really have to tell us how you're going to make it fair and make sure that everyone is treated the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Just to make a comment on the enforcement part, we do have a code enforcer. He is out, I think, next week or something for surgery, but he is always available. The intent or my envisionment of it is just like a beach sticker. Your vehicles will have a Southampton Village sticker on the back of every truck that you have. And it'll be easy to identify if you are outside. So I think that if we keep it simple, the enforcement part will work. Is there any other comments?
My name's David Rayner, local residents. I live at 49 Breeze Lane. I have my back history is I have a associate degree in horticulture. I've been working in this village for 30 years, doing maintenance. And I read everything, and I have a few questions, namely one, Mr. Bruin opened up, and he said that we had invited industry to discuss this proposal. Well, I know we didn't, and I know that Trustee Allen and I talked about it and it never happened. So I feel that's something that has to be addressed. I think industry should be involved, not with the NSLJ, but with us local landscapers for our input. That's one thing. That didn't happen.
We did
Had a
actually.
meeting, David, I don't know if you were here.
I wasn't here.
Yeah,
No,
you
we
may
had a
not be.
meeting.
I'm sorry.
It was a very good turnout, and people really voiced.
Other landscapers?
Yeah, the licensing piece came directly from you guys.
Yeah, no, I agree with the license. I mean, I've implemented that. That's great. All right. Well, that's good. I hope we can get more involved. At least I can, anyway. And I know Mark Anletti and a few others weren't there.
No, Mark was here. One of the
I just spoke to Mark.
One of the analytics was here, and Don Mahoney was here. Public meeting. It was a public meeting, yeah.
Public meeting.
At the board meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about something different than the board meeting. Not this last month. The last time we had the board meeting in this discussion?
It was a couple of months ago.
A couple months ago. Yeah, I was here for that too.
Oh, okay.
But my point is,
August.
I feel that this board, to do just, should have a lot of local industry involved at a separate meeting where there's no, animosity going on or no tit for tat thing. And I think that's important. Have a nice. So now you have both sides, obviously, in that case where, the public meeting, you know how they are. You do it all the time. So I'm hoping we can work that out sooner than later. So that's very important to me because, you guys wrote these proposals with, without industry, I don't believe, enough industry, local industry. Getting back to the laws, the dates, May 15th and October 30th. We all know in this village the Memorial Day rush. We all know that. Okay, so I totally disagree with May 15th, and I'll tell you why. Last year we had a long, hard winter. We had snowstorms in March, so we were running late on our maintenance and cleanups. We have a very short window here to get our properties in order, and we really bust our humps to get everything done by Labor Day, not by Memorial Day, as we all know. And that's key. I mean, everybody knows Memorial Day is the day, the weekend. So I really think we should extend that. And then as far as September, I know for being a professional, you get your London plane trees, you get your locust trees, they start dropping in August and September. They come down, if you know your trees, which I do, okay? So I think September 30th, October 1st is also too long into the season. I do agree, with the new laws for the electric. I understand that, but I think the time restraints, are too long for that, for us, especially in Memorial Day, and then in September. That can be stretched a little bit, but definitely not Memorial Day. That's too early for us to get everything in order. So that said, and I want to stress, I have a question for Mr. Bruin on section C.
Which law are you looking at?
I'm looking at the first one, E.
Landscape
acres?
registration law?
No.
The noise.
Page 2, where it says
subsection E?
Yeah. That was confusing to me.
What's the question?
Sorry. It says over a half acre, this is being cleared as greater, unless the property that is being cleared is greater than a half acre. You're allowed to use what after a half acre size property and when? You said a walk-behind blower? I don't...
You're talking about subsection E, which states, in addition to the time limitations above, walk-behind leaf blowers may not be used unless the property that is being cleaned is greater than 1/2 acre.
Okay, so if it's over a half acre, you can use a walk-behind?
As long as it's within the limitations, the dates. If it's gas-powered, it can't be used between the summer, essentially.
If it's over a half acre, you can use it.
You can use it as long as you abide by the time limitations, the gas-powered limitations. It's an additional requirement in addition to the time requirements. So if it's gas-powered, it can't be used between May 15th and September 30th, period.
Period, not depending on the size of the property?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, well, that brings me to my next thing.
We're at 3 minutes.
What's that?
Letting you know we're on 3 minutes.
Okay. It sounds to me like we got divided communities here. You got your Walnut Street and your south of the highway. I mean, these gentlemen here, they work out of their house. Is there any restrictions the village carry for that? Any kind of, you making a living out of your house?
Please address the board.
Oh, sorry. Is the board having any restrictions on people that are living in their homes and making a living?
Not that I can access.
Well,
the question rather, can a homeowner do this versus a contractor? The answer is this applies to employees or independent contractors, not the homeowner.
Okay, well, I think with my 3 minutes up, I really hope we can get together the local industry. And then one last thing, a gentleman mentioned refitting the tools. It's $12,000 for me. That's just me. If you take this whole industry right now, we're over $100,000 by May 15th. I think that's not fair. And Don Mahoney was running very late. He also emailed his letter. I would love to have it read off. It's a very poignant letter, but I'm sure I'll leave it with the board. Thanks, board.
I'll take that.
Yeah, we will give them a copy.
I'm certain the board's going to leave the hearing open for a second time.
Okay.
But can we just repeat the date on the 2nd, so if anybody leaves early?
March 14th.
March 14th.
And the purpose of this public hearing is to get your input. What we've proposed is not necessarily written in stones. We appreciate all the landscapers and all the guys that work so hard here in the summer, and we want them to continue to make a living. But I got to say that the majority of the complaints and calls we get involve you guys. And,
One quick thing, but I'm sorry. I know this gentleman came up with 92 signatures last month. If I entertain, through my industry, if I get 200 or 300 signatures, would you entertain those signatures?
I would entertain whatever you get. I'm not trying to put you in a position. I'm trying to make a law that is equitable for you and equitable for the citizens of the village. Because as it is, it isn't. In the summer months when people are trying to enjoy the properties that you take care of and do a great job on, they can't.
Right. Well, I know, it's when I'm on these big estates, I don't really work in the Elm Street area, in that area. I work on the large estates, and I'm well educated in leaf usage. I tell my guys how to do it, believe me, and I'm all about that. Thank you, but that's it, thank you.
Yep. Yes.
My name is Patty Wood. I'm from 52 Main Street in Port Washington, New York.
I'm the Executive Director of Grassroots Environmental Education. I'm also a visiting scholar at the College of Public Health at Adelphi University and a member of the Ecological Commission for the town of North Hempstead, which you heard was another area here on Long Island that is considering this type of legislation. Thank you all for the opportunity to make this statement regarding the use of these gas-powered leaf blowers, a known contributor to health problems, not only for the general public, but also to the users of the equipment in the daily performance of their jobs. I'm going to make this very brief, just a little bit of background information, just to remind us a little bit of why we're here. Long Island already designated a non-attainment area for air quality according to the EPA Clean Air Standards. And the federally funded Long Island Breast Cancer Study, which you may remember happened a couple of decades ago, produced a report indicating that there was one positive association between higher breast cancer rates and a toxic exposure on Long Island, and that was exposure to PAHs, or polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which are key combustion byproducts. They attributed this primarily to exhaust and emissions from cars and trucks and things like gas leaf blowers. The two-cylinder engines that drive leaf blowers have never been regulated by any federal or state agency. The engines, as a result, are crude and inefficient, and because they are designed to be air-cooled, 100% of their emissions are released directly into the environment. This is very significant as the toxic exhaust fumes and emissions per leaf blower per hour is the equivalent to the amount of emissions from 17 cars driven for that same hour. Exhaust pollution from two-cycle engines is a large contributor of carbon monoxide, nitrous oxides, hydrocarbons, and small particulate matter, and I'm talking about 2.5 microns or less. If you're talking about particulate matter and you know anything about it, 2.5 microns is something that we're very concerned about. It can increase the number and severity of asthma attacks, cause bronchitis, other lung diseases, increase the risk of certain cancers, and reduce one's ability to fight infections. Particulates in that 2.5 micron range can migrate hundreds of miles or stay suspended. This is all depending on weather conditions, humidity, air temperature, and so on, in the air for days or weeks, according to the US EPA. Many uncontrollable factors influence this significant contributor to air quality. In addition, the high velocity of the air, clocked up to 185 miles per hour, whips up additional particulate matter in the form of dust and pollen, animal fecal matter, pesticides, fungi, and spores, and fertilizers. Approximately 5 pounds of particulate matter per leaf blower per hour are swept into the air, and then they take hours to settle back down onto the earth, as well as our decks and our windowsills, outdoor furniture, vegetable gardens, children's play toys, etc. And then lastly, because gas leaf blowers operate on only 2 cylinders, these machines run at speeds roughly 3 times faster than a car's, and this is the noise part of this. In the process, lots of energy is released in the form of high-frequency sound waves with decibel levels far exceeding acceptable limits in the range of 65 to 75 or more at 50 feet, and even louder at close range, and that has been clocked up to 95.
3 minutes.
Okay. So the decibel scale is actually logarithmic. Each increase of 10, say from 60 to 70, actually represents a noise 10 times louder. Deafness caused by noise is irreversible. So lastly, I would just make a couple of comments. I'm finished with my statement about what was already said. The gas leaf blowers, not gas leaf blowers, the battery-powered electric blowers almost pay for themselves over the first year of their use. You don't have fuel costs to them. You don't have engine repairs for them. And people who have been using them, like in the town of North Hempstead, we have been piloting them at the Botanic Gardens in the town of North Hempstead, and they're very happy with the results of that usage. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we get a comment from you, let's pick some people that haven't made a comment yet. Yes.
Hi, my name's Bill Fox. I have Bill Fox Grounds Maintenance. I'm in business 23 years. I employ 26 people. I read the law, and
Your
I think...
address, please?
Your address.
Oh, the business address is County Road 39 in Southampton. The leaf blowers I've been experimenting with last season, with the electric leaf blowers, and they're certainly not as effective for heavy duty. They're definitely quieter. The clients like them, so I'm leaning on purchasing more this year and training more to using them. So I'm kind of happy about that. I don't like two-cycle motors myself. I just don't like them. I got the law. I read it, and it says, because I don't have a Suffolk County home improvement license. I have a Town of Southampton home improvement license and a Town of East Hampton home improvement license. So I got a copy of the license information. It says Suffolk County home improvement licenses are not valid in townships of Southampton, East Hampton, and Shelter Island. So I was kind of hoping that my Town of Southampton license that I've had for 23 years, that I renew every year, would suffice for here, you know. And I'm a Class A golf course superintendent, and if you go to Golf Course Superintendents Association of America's website and look up the requirements to be a Class A golf course superintendent, I have a lot of fertilizer knowledge, which I won't, launch into now. But the test for Suffolk County nitrogen fertilizer turf is March 5th. And the building in Riverhead, they say isn't adequate, so they have to have it up in Hoppa at the H. Lee Dennison building. So I was hoping I could bring my transcript of my GCSAA courses that I've taken and save myself a trip to Hopog, and that would suffice. And and you should probably have in there should be like a 3A certificate for the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, because they have a lot of certificates. They have hunting certificates. So you should maybe put in 3A. I think there's a 3B also.
It goes on. There's a 5B. And
so, I would just look into those couple items.
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hello. Cindy McNamara, Lewis Road, East Quogue. Yes. From the Southampton Press, one of the problems we have constantly is pesticides and fertilizers, Mr. Irving said. It's hard to keep track of individuals if individuals are licensed to do so or just coming in and applying it. It could be a health issue. Pesticide applications are regulated by the DEC. If you don't trust the DEC to do their job, and this is truly about keeping track of individuals applying pesticides, why are you only targeting landscapers? What about tree care companies and pesticide companies? The vast majority of landscapers don't apply the restricted use pesticides that those companies apply, as they can't even purchase them without the proper DEC-issued license, let alone apply them. Let's forget about the fact that you're targeting a single industry using reasoning that doesn't even make sense, and let's talk about who you're hurting. My husband and I have owned a landscaping business for 25 years. Our company has 2 employees, my husband and myself. We are as mom and pop as you can get. As it's just the 2 of us, we service a very select, limited number of accounts. We currently have 1 client in Southampton Village. We can't afford to lose that 1 account, but at the same time, the hoops we would now have to jump through to keep that 1 account is a major headache for us. The large landscaping companies who you say helped you draft these resolutions are self-serving. They have a fully staffed office to fill out paperwork, and the fee is nothing to them. This legislation helps them drive out the small businesses that are just making it by. If you are truly worried about illegal pesticide use, then ask the DEC to step up enforcement in the village. Here is what this resolution really says. You can work on the plumbing and electric in a home, clean the pool, or treat the foundation for termites, and we don't need to verify your license to do so. But if you want to cut the grass at that house, not only are we going to need to verify that you are licensed, you're going to have to pay us for another one. If that makes sense to you, then you have to be a politician. Again, this was my second because I thought it was going to be two separate hearings. With the leaf blowers, you are targeting a single industry and doing so with the input of a select group of landscapers who I assume can afford to invest in new equipment. I am not opposed to limiting the hours on all blowers to those proposed for construction, but a ban is completely impractical for small companies with a handful of accounts in the village. A gas-powered blower is no louder than many construction generators, yet unlike generators that power a job site all day, we use a leaf blower once or twice a week for no more than 10 minutes per visit during the dates you are proposing a complete ban. If you believe that this ban is fair and practical for landscapers, why are you allowing an exemption for golf, beach, and tennis clubs, as well as municipal employees? If we are forced to invest in new equipment, they should be as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
Good evening, Mayor Irving, members of the board. My name is Bob DeLuca. I serve as president of Group 50 East End, Post Office Box 569, Bridgehampton, New York. I'll be mercifully brief. I'm here to support your effort, particularly with respect to the leaf blower issue. And just a couple of comments in terms of what I've observed. One is, obviously, this board has done its work to try to get stakeholder input. I strongly urge you to continue that. It's working, I think. This is what that looks like. And for folks who haven't felt heard yet, obviously this public hearing is an opportunity for that to happen. So I think that's a good thing. Second thing, all of the comments made by Ms. Wood, I would heartily endorse. Obviously there are environmental risks here as well as just the noise. The third thing, I've been at this now in this job for almost 30 years, and I wanted to give you the top calls that I get, and I get calls on everything. Water quality is number one. Traffic used to be a strong number two, and traffic is now equaled by leaf blowers. And this is all across the 5 East End towns. So if they have gotten quieter, there's just maybe more people using it. But I can tell you that this issue, it's a real problem for people. And any effort that you all can make and are continuing to make in the direction of trying to reduce that problem for people who come out here to enjoy themselves and the quality of life, I think is going to be welcomed. And I think those folks in the industry that are moving in the direction of trying new things, trying alternatives, I think that's to be welcomed. And I like the idea where somebody said maybe there could be an incentive for people who move in that direction, and that could be cut off against a licensing fee. You'll have to figure all that out. But at the end of the day, what the village is doing here is what's happening, and what is happening in over 100 communities around the country. I think you're doing the right thing. I think it's what folks, and certainly my members who talk to me, want to see you continue forward with. But I think the way that you're doing it by trying to get as much information as you can from all of the involved parties is the best way to go. And I appreciate your time and effort, and we'll put everything else in writing, and maybe we'll see you at the next hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Richard Grotzky Mower Service, 107 County Road 39A, Southampton. I'm not here tonight to talk about leaf blowers, although many of you might think I am. I spoke my piece at the last meeting. I'm here for the little guy. You're passing these resolutions for the licensing, and I'm not going to make any happy customers of mine when I say that I'm not for total licensing of the way you have it written in your laws right now, as the resolution here right now. You do know that this will have a direct impact on many of your employees in the village, because employees of the village have small landscape companies that, I shouldn't say they're companies, businesses where they leave because they cannot afford to live in this town on what their salaries are from the village or the town. So town employees, village employees have to go out and mow a few lawns, clean a few yards, do a few gardens. You have to take that into consideration. And that's all I really want to say right now.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Any others? Yep.
James Carlton, address Power Equipment Plus, 200 David White's Lane in Southampton. I have a bachelor's degree in environmental studies. Actually, I was one of Bob DeLuca's students a while ago. I agree with the licensing. It really has to be done, and I do sell blowers either way, battery-powered and gas. Battery-powered blowers have come a long way. They are still pretty loud. They're not that quiet. But as far as from a green standpoint and pollution goes, these gas-powered blowers, they are inspected by the EPA. There's a lot of regulations with gas-powered blowers, so they're not as dirty as one may think. They've come a long way. They're pretty clean. And you also have to think about the battery-powered products as well. I mean, they have to be plugged into an outlet, and that power comes from fossil fuel burning plants as well. So it's not the best solution, the battery-powered stuff. It's getting there, but they are pretty loud, and that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Lily-White, 121 Toilsome Lane. I'm really glad that you're approaching this issue. I'm blessed with 6 properties around me, and it is very interesting during the week. Tuesday, my right-hand neighbor has his yard done. Wednesday, it's us. Thursday, it's the first house in the morning, and the second house in the evening, and Friday it's the last house in the back. So basically it's all week. We've had some people suggest, I think Herrick Road or somebody does, that they have them come at the same time. So a noise reduction would be absolutely necessary, otherwise we get that stereo effect that was mentioned earlier. But that is another thing that could be thought of by neighborhoods, is to contain the time in the smaller properties. The larger properties, obviously, it's a different issue altogether. But when you live close together, that is basically quite interesting, especially on a Saturday afternoon at 5 o'clock when the dust from the driveway next door blows into your guest in the barbecue or whatever. So that's the one point. Time could be area by organizations, groups. Maybe they could discuss that the landscapers come at the same time. Another question I have is on the noise of construction. You mentioned the time 8 o'clock onwards. We had construction for a couple of years next door to us. Thank God it's done. It's all nice and clean now. But what we did notice is that due to the traffic coming in from into the Hamptons, the trade parade, whatever, we had deliveries at 5:45 in the morning, 6:30. We had people drive up early and chat their way through right underneath your bedroom window. So that's not constant. And they said, "Oh, we're not doing anything. We're just here." So how do you approach that in considering construction? I mean, it's part of the building site, but you're waking up quite early if you live right next to. So for me, it's done, I'm done, but I'm thinking of the other people who go through this with early deliveries and people coming in early to avoid some of the traffic. So
yeah, it's difficult to get it all. Thank you. Yes.
My name is James Ruwinski, P.O. Box 2183, Southampton. I've been in business landscaping for about 30 years. I've held a pesticide license since 1982 when I graduated college with an associate's degree in turf management. In order to keep my pesticide license, every year I go to 2 conferences to attain pesticide credits for the DEC, which teaches me how to use fertilizers and pesticides. To force somebody like me to take an additional course, I don't think that's correct. That's right.
Well, we aren't forcing you to take an additional course.
You're saying that if I want to have a license with you, I have to take a fertilizer?
No, we want to see that you have your pesticide license.
Oh, okay. So that's not the wording that I read. Also, I agree with the noise ordinance. I don't send my men into the village before 8 o'clock. I don't have them in the village after 5 o'clock. We don't work on Saturdays in the village. So I schedule my work, and I think other people could schedule their work out of it. I have bought electric blowers. Yeah, they don't work as good. The people that I work for want their lawns clean. So they don't want to walk on their grass and get clippings stuck to their feet. I try to educate them to put the grass clippings back, but they don't want to hear it. They don't want to get grass on their feet. And that's what I use the blowers for. The homeowners are the ones that need to be educated that maintain their own properties about fertilizer use. It's not the landscape industry that is causing the problems. We've been studying, we've been understanding, so that's basically what I have to say.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you use a mulching mower? Does it...
No, I don't. I have used...
the particles enough so that you wouldn't have to blow it?
I have used one in the past, but they're only good when the lawn is really dry. When the lawn is wet, they plug up, they get munged up, it leaves big clumps. Then we have to use the blowers to clean the big clumps up.
That was a question.
A lot of my clients limit me to times when I can come between 8 and 12, so the grass is wet. I am now just discharging clippings because there's no place to dump them. That's another thing. If you want to have us use less leaf blower, bagging the clippings would be good. It's not good for the lawn. We do use more fertilizer. But to have a place for the clippings to go would be something to think about. The town doesn't allow clippings. They closed the Bridgehampton pit, who used to take the clippings. Anybody that wants to take them, that can, is charging an exorbitant fee to get rid of litter. It's a big problem. So there's a lot of problems other than just landscapers and this. Noise ordinances for builders, they make noise from 8 in the morning until 7 in the morning till whenever. Landscapers come in, they're there 20 minutes and gone. So we're not really the only noisemakers in the village. There should be a study too, possibly about the people that complain. The people complain about their neighbor using a blower to cut their lawn. Did they cut it? Do they have a landscape company? Does their landscape company use a blower on their property? That's another possible issue too. And then enforcement. If I'm going to do this, I'm more than happy to do the registration with you. I think it's right because there are a lot of people coming in that don't know what they're doing and really ruining things for the people that do. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Fran?
You could have, but you knew it wasn't possible.
Mowers on the beach?
We're not speaking about the beach right now. That's another situation. Francis Adam Chesky, 40 West Prospect Street. I just want to say that ordinance enforcement is here because a couple years ago, it was a rainy week. I was way behind on cutting my lawns. There was 6 o'clock. Lady was waving to me. Stop, stop. I said, I only got a little ways to go. I said, another 15 minutes, I'll be done. Next thing I know, Fran, what are you doing? You got a complaint? So I'm getting village police officer. You got to shut it down. I shut it down and had to come back the next day. So there is ordinance enforcement in this village. Believe me, they come. So I'm just backing up the ordinance enforcer. There is ordinance here. So somebody said there isn't any ordinance enforcers here. There are. So, and they do enforce it. Believe me. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks, man.
Yes.
Hello, Board. My name is Dan McNamara. I live in East Quogue. I'm the second half of my wife's business, Cindy. My parents raised me here in Watermill. Potato farmer turned landscaper. Worked for him a whole bunch of years. Started my own business. I can't tell you, it's probably been, I'm almost 35 years. I don't consider myself that old, but that's how long I've been doing this business. And it was real quiet back when I was a kid. Everywhere was quiet. There was no people. There's a lot of people now. A lot of people with different needs. And as a small business, we're running, I'm down from about 45 accounts at my high point. I used a lot of different labor, questionable of whether they were legal or not. They created problems for me. A lot of stress with making work for them. And so now it's me and my wife. Live the way I live. That's the way I want it. That's how it is. These equipment, these blowers and all these power equipment, they make it possible for me and my wife to handle heavy loads. I mean, I have bought the best equipment to try to help myself do heavy labor that you usually use 5 guys for. I have to do it with me and my wife. Blower to me is 10 minutes of my day at this one account that we have. My favorite customer in the world, figure that. So if this guy goes, he's a great customer, friend, I gotta give him the boot maybe because $250, I gotta give it to him. Now he's probably not gonna throw me out for $250 or $225 or whatever it is. Point being, I don't see the fee as fair. Especially just for me as a small little business, that little bit actually hurts me. The big guys with 200 accounts, $1 an account, it ain't nothing to them. The blower is about 10 minutes, tops. Walkways, patios, around the pool, maybe run off the driveway real quick, and of course, the public sidewalk. I clean those off spotless. Just another thing to think about. There's going to be leaves. There's going to be residue on the public sidewalks. You can't be everywhere all the time to clean them. And I think we provide a service in some way of keeping those maintained also. That's really about all I have to say. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
No, we appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else with a comment? So if you want to...
Come back up, Trish.
I want you to know I come here directly from teaching the course that the DEC requires for the DEC to have a pesticide license. Okay, so I know a little bit about that. What I wanted to talk about was enforcement. Gentleman that just talked up here, he's a businessman. He don't work after 5 o'clock. He don't work on Saturdays. However, you got one code enforcement officer. At 6 o'clock, that's when the part-timers and the unlicensed landscapers come out, like that gentleman said. They after work, after school, after teaching, after police office. That's when they work. That's when the enforcement has to be. Okay? We are businessmen. Okay? On Saturdays and Sundays, we want to be home with our families. At 6 o'clock at night, we want to be home with our families. But that's when the illegals or the unlicensed landscapers come out. So you've got to think about that. It's a big part of what you're doing here.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
You have one code enforcement officer. Can he be reached by members of the public?
Yes, you can, yeah.
Does he have a phone number?
He has a phone number and voicemail, yeah.
Okay, because just looking at, I know from signage, he also does signage, right? And yeah, I would say that if you read the sign ordinance and you look at what's being, some of the signage in the village, some of the illegal signs have been there for 10, 20 years. So the enforcement is a real issue, and it seems to me as if you're kind of blowing it off, but you have to do something about, having a sticker on a truck. Does that mean that every single person who comes in the village, every truck is going to be checked by the police? You're going to have checkpoints? Or, I think we need to have more information about enforcement, otherwise it's not fair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No, the enforcement is a important issue on it. The point of the stickers on the vehicles is they're easily recognizable, and when they're pulled over on the side of the road, very rarely do we see a landscaper pull into a driveway. They're usually on the road, so it's pretty recognizable. Any other comments? Any comments from the trustees? Council?
I have one
None.
question.
If there's no further comments, I think the board's pleasure, based on what you've already indicated, would be to adjourn these for all purposes to the March 14th meeting, and also invite anybody who's here or any members of the public to provide any further comments in writing as well at any time.
Yeah.
How many of the landscapers currently have a Suffolk County or a town license?
I don't know.
That's the
David, you might know. How many, do you think how many, if you can come up to the mic, landscapers have a Suffolk County?
Or a town license, home improvement license already?
Town wouldn't apply in the village.
No, I'm just asking how many currently have a Suffolk County?
When they get involved in construction, some landscapers get involved in construction, they have to have a Suffolk County. They just put up a fence, you gotta get a permit.
Right.
So that, in that case, any masonry work, that involves a Suffolk County homeowner's permit. That's what this gentleman has one.
Right.
And most of my constituents I talk to have it. So, I don't know, I can put a number on it or nothing like that.
But if landscapers perform work in the town today, they have to have a town home improvement license?
No, Suffolk County.
In the town of Southampton?
I don't know. I only have a Suffolk County. I don't know about the town.
Does the Suffolk County I guess I do have a question, because it has been brought up by people in the audience, whether it needs to be a town, whether we need to mirror the town qualification, which I'm not even sure we have, or does it need to be county? If somebody already has a town, does we piggyback on it?
Well, Suffolk County, like I said, offers that course for nitrogen. That's part of the Suffolk County homeowners requirement.
So for the application of
that application has that. When you go to Hot Dog, you got to take, you got a book you got to read, you got to take a test. So that's all involved with that.
But, so there's a town home improvement license and there's a Suffolk County? Okay.
Town would not apply in the village at all.
No, I'm not talking about that. Yeah. Who has what?
They do, and it doesn't, as Mr. Rayner indicated, it applies more to the improvement part of the real property as opposed to the maintenance part of the property. And that's always been the town's interpretation, and I would suspect they don't go after any unregulated or unlicensed landscapers per se. And that's the gap in all the rules. Similarly with the county, though.
Yes. Charlie's going to want you up here.
Can you step up, please?
The podium to the microphone, please.
I gotta go up there again?
You do.
He's nodding his head back there.
I get lifted up this way, thing gone. Okay, you're right around the corner. Suffolk County Consumer Affairs License. Okay, I sit on the Nassau County Consumer Affairs Board, and just for a little point of information, in Nassau County, you cannot get a consumer affairs license for landscaping unless you have 5 years or experience, or you're a member of the NSLGA. That's quite a feather in our cap. Okay, why? Because we're the educational association where you get stuff. But what I'm saying, to protect your residents, when somebody's got a consumer affairs license in Suffolk County, they've done background checks, they've done fingerprints, they've done all the things that would protect your residents. Just something to think about, and another reason to have the license.
No, we have thought about that.
Just want to make one comment in reference to licensing. The expensive part of the license isn't the license, it's the insurance. I spend more money a month on insurance than I do on fuel, and I have 5 trucks. That's the expensive portion of this. It's because if one of my guys falls, breaks his leg, something happens to him, I have $5 million of insurance to cover him. It's not going on you. That's what they don't want. That's what a legal landscaper doesn't want to pay. It's not the $100 for the license, which, if the fee should be no more than a charge to reimburse the village for the paperwork. $100, $50. It's typically what we're paying for a village license. But it's, the workman's compensation insurance, which is 15% of my labor, and my $5 million umbrella and everything else that goes along with it. Every truck and trailer is all covered. That's what they don't want to spend the money on. The $250, that's steep, okay? For the smaller company, the one who has one client, yeah, it's a bigger expense on them than Mahoney or me, but it's just the price of doing business, unfortunately. But that's what people don't want, is they don't want to pay the insurance.
Yes? Yep.
The Suffolk County license is not valid in Southampton Town.
That's correct.
So we
State your
hold
name again for the record.
Cindy McNamara, East Quogue. So you have to have a Southampton Town license. The Southampton Town license, you have to give them proof of insurance, proof of the DEC licensing, all of that. So for the people that don't have a county license because it's not valid in the town of Southampton, that's the only place they work, what do they need to do? Because the county license is very expensive and it's very entailed to get it. So to get it, just to get a village license when you already have a town license, you're not working outside of the town of Southampton, what does that do?
I think what I'm hearing the question is that if a landscaper has a town of Southampton registration, which requires the same things that Suffolk County does, would that be proof enough for us to register them in the village? Yes, they would need to be registered here as well, but does that...
Well, the component of having the other licenses, there's a place, these are all consumer affairs, as the gentleman indicated, consumer protection laws, so that if they have a complaint because of shoddy work or certain activities that the contractor engages in, they have a place to go, make a complaint, and the license of that contractor can be questioned, if not suspended or revoked. So there is a process. So the issue is either to recognize the town program would mean the village would have to engage the town and have an intermunicipal agreement to allow enforcement of the town licensing in the village of Southampton, or the village, as we did in 2007, had our own village licensing law, or rely on one of these other municipalities. Right now, the county license actually applies in the village of Southampton currently.
Because
So if you're engaging in this activity, you need a county license.
Okay, because the town is enforcing licensing.
Not in the village, though.
No, but in the town they are. They are stopping any landscaper that doesn't have a sticker. They are stopping them because we ask, because we're like, why do you pay for it if they don't enforce it?
Right.
So they are enforcing it. So.
Any other comments? So we're going to reschedule on March 14th, so I need to close
No, adjourn for all purposes to March 14th.
14th?
So I'll make a motion to adjourn the proposed local law annual registration of landscapers and the proposed local law nuisance unnecessary noise from construction and property maintenance to the March 14th meeting.
February 26th.
Second?
Because that's the school holiday. That's what everybody said.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Hold on a second. There.
You had requests from landscapers not to put it that way.
Landscapers requested?
Yes.
Do they know,
They said
but do they know it's the 26th?
Julie, you're the one who heard
They
this.
did.
What did they
I
tell you?
was told they requested it because the week of February 18th.
Yes, I know, that's not when the meeting is. The second meeting is the 26th. That's, I know what the issue is, because I'm away that same week. My kids are in school. The point is, the second February meeting is on the 26th.
I got room in my suitcase.
Are we doing it right there? So, I mean, this is all, so I don't know why we need to go into March. I know that comment, but it's incorrect. President's Week is the week before.
Whatever it is, but you already told everybody March 14th.
Well, we can quickly tell them it's February 26th if you
Nah, everybody's
March 14th.
Everybody
finished the motion.
Okay, we don't have a second.
All in favor?
Yeah, we have a second. Yes, Patrick.
I'm good.
Did you say all in favor?
Yes.
Okay,
Communications?
moving ahead, communications to the board.
We have a letter here from the Southampton Soccer Club Limited that is looking to use the Downs Family Park Village for their soccer program. And there's an attached schedule as to when they want to use them. Issues with that?
Come every year.
Come every year.
They do every year, it's great.
So, anyone want to entertain a motion that resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the use of the Downs Family Park soccer fields by the Southampton Soccer Club Limited as per the attached schedule?
So move that motion.
Moved by the mayor, second.
Second.
Nancy? All in favor?
Aye.
And we have suggested resolutions.
Okay. Entertain, resolve that the reading of the minutes of the public session of the January 10th, 2019 meeting be dispensed with, and that those minutes be accepted as filed with the village administrator, and that the actions taken at that meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved.
Moved.
Patrick? Second?
Second.
Down? All in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion resolved that the claims for the warrants dated January 22nd, 2019, totaling $478,763.68, warrant number 11, general fund, and $146,618.25, warrant number 9, the capital reserve fund, and the village payrolls for the period of January 4th, 2019 to January 17, 2019 be audited and approved.
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Second, we have bills over $1,000. We have Barnwell House of Tires. That's 6 tires, tubes, flaps for the fire department, and a Parks pickup truck. Bartlett Tree Experts, pruning of 11 trees throughout the village and inspection of 4 others. That's for $7,790. We have Buzz Chew Chevrolet Olds for $1,212.91. That's the trim and rear bumper covers for a fire department Tahoe. We have Diane Signs for $2,150. That's lettering and graphics for the police department's Tahoe. We have Eileen M. Toohey for $1,204.38. That's accounting services for the month of December. We have Fleet Pride, Inc., $1,374.96. That's for an oil pan gasket wheel assembly for a highway dump truck number 42. We have Galls LLC for $2,113.22. That's police uniforms. Global Monticello Group Corp., $3,138.71. That's for diesel fuel. High Tech Fire and Safety, Inc., for $1,995.84. That's for 8 sets of NFPA safety boots for the ambulance. Johnson Electric Construction Corp. for $1,400. That's traffic signal maintenance. Lennon Flags, LLC, for $1,310. That's for 25 U.S. flags, appropriate hooks, and 2 ropes. Liberty Ironworks Incorporated, $4,238.15. That's a fabricated sign frame for a Maltese cross with LED lighting for the fire department. Matthew Bender and Company, $1,956.58. That's for 6 2019 Gilbert's Criminal Practice Annual Law Books for the police department. We have National Grid for $2,407.90. That's utilities for the fire department at St. Andrews and Hampton Street. Nugent and Potter for $2,254.58. That's various maintenance for items for multiple departments. We have the New York State Employees Health Insurance Program for $348,422.49. That's the health insurance premium for the month of December. We have PSE&G Long Island Collection Services for $4,161.33. That's utilities for the fire department facilities. Rico's Clothing for $1,599.60. That's 8 double-breasted black trench coats for the fire department. We have Salsco Inc. for $1,239.45. That's a repair and overhaul of the hydraulic cylinder for the village's Salsco chipper. We have the Southampton Fire Department for $3,286.35. That's to reimburse the travel expenses for 7 members to the Fire Department Expo. Suffolk County Water Authority, that's for $53,691.47. Come to the village's attention that we did not pay the second half hydrant fees for 2017, and we owe for the first half of 2018. So there are 2 bills there. The $26,000 will be put in, will be an adjustment made to the closing books of our 2018 financial statements. Verizon for $3,683.78. That's a town-wide phone service. Verizon Wireless, $1,205.73. That's for cell service. WB Mason Company for $1,014.83. That's supplies for various departments.
Is the Spyglass Group LLC? Yep. What is that? 4,009?
5828.
Thank you very much. I know what that is.
Number 5828.
Yes.
It's on page 8/9.
Got it. Spyglass Group LLC for $4,949.88. That's a contract that the village entered into to get reimbursed by Verizon. They were overpaying us, so they did the audit, and they get a certain percentage of the savings for a period of 3 years.
Okay.
On the capital account, we have Central Air Corporation for $24,842.50. That's partial payment for the ambulance barn HVAC. We have Morton Buildings for $96,984.55. That's also the ambulance barn capital project. We have Rollins Electric for $24,791.20. That's partial payment for the ambulance barn capital project electrical. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Would entertain a motion resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves Andrew Cassell as a probationary member of Agawam Hose Company No. 1, effective January 22nd, 2019.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion items. We have a request from the Town of Southampton Housing Authority to waive the administrative application fees. I think they had that done in the town, but quite frankly, I'm not particularly in favor to it. I'd rather see the application before I waive any fees.
Doesn't
So the suggestion is in the email as a blanket resolution for any and all fees as it may come up. I think what the mayor is saying is prefer to do it on a case-by-case basis. I think that's what you're saying?
Yes.
And you're waiting for the application to come in on the project on Raymond Lee Court, Reverend Raymond Lee Court, for the application to come first, and then we'll present the potential waiving of fees at that time?
What did we do for the Bailey houses
We waived the fees, I believe.
as they came in?
Yes, because there
Okay.
was no blanket authority.
Okay.
I don't know if we
Okay.
need to do anything with that.
I don't think we need to.
No? And then we have
Then I
the,
will send correspondence back to Mr. Highsmith.
okay. We have the Pirates Concert Project.
Just before you do that, would it, I know they need to do their planning and budgeting, so would the board normally be inclined to consider that? So
Yes,
that-
yes.
okay, so-
We have the Pirates Concert Project.
You want to give us the preamble?
Yes. So, as you know, the Pirates Concert House, we had a couple bid attempts on this to get the work done, and each time the costs exceeded much more than this board has allocated or anticipated. More recently, when you sent Paul Rogers and his firm back to try to sharpen the pencil, so to speak, on how we can make these bids more accurate, he identified that, part of when the buildings were, the additions to what was there were actually removed and demolished, and then the actual historic component of the building was disassembled. Those parts were all then taken and stored off-site for a while, and now they're stored on-site in a container. However, it's been 3 or 4 years, if not more. They've been sitting there. They were never actually identified or cataloged or determined in their structural component how or where or what the condition of those structural elements are, let alone what would be needed to do the other, to finish the project, the balance of it. And as such, all the bids in the past did a blanket number assuming probably more material or that would be needed. So the architects have come back and said we need to really go back and evaluate, which was never done, the condition of the material, and two, what is the balance that we need, which that would help both in the setup, identifying, cataloging, figuring out, and tagging how it would be reassembled and used, but more importantly, if there was materials that termites or whatever the condition isn't going to be able to withstand reconstruction, we would eliminate that, but they could also use that as a model for reproduction or otherwise. So the architect prepared a scope of work, solicited bids from 3 qualified contractors, received those back. The lowest offer to complete the services was at $29,000, and all the attendant materials in your book, and the proposal, and so you have a resolution to authorize the award of that proposal to Lipsky Enterprises at a cost not to exceed $29,000.
Well, the intent here is that I think in the long run it will save us, because at this point it's very hard, one, to get accurate bids because nobody's quite sure what we have there or how much of the material we can use. It's been commented that even up to a minimal of 10% is usable, but we really don't know. So I would think that moving ahead with this project, this would be the best direction to take. So I would make a motion to accept the Lipsky Construction submitted bid of $29,000
Second.
As per the resolution.
as per the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Best part of the evening, comments from the board members. Trustee Uskramsky.
I just want to once again thank the public for filling our room and offering a lot of good input, a lot of I think some good points were brought up that even I wasn't aware of, and I'm sure others as well. So I always welcome public input all the time. It doesn't matter how long it takes. Please come and give us what we need to do, because something will happen. I do think people realize that. Our banks are up against the wall, and we've talked about it, we've discussed it, so something is going to happen here. So I think most people realize that now. As we get into the summer season, it's making sure everybody's aware of what's going to happen and to educate about it. So again, please stay tuned for this as we keep going forward. Thank you. That's all I got.
Well said, thank you. Trustee Allen.
I second what Rich had said. I'm good.
Perfect. Thank you.
2 for 1.
Trustee McGann.
I agree with everything that took place this evening as well. Do you want to talk about our meeting today, Michael?
Sure.
Okay, Michael and I had a meeting today with several businesses within the village of Southampton. Their concerns about empty stores, their concerns about how we can... Excuse me? Oh, I have to speak louder.
I don't know, just, can he hear you?
Can you hear me? No? I'm leaning in. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah, he's got you.
Okay. So we had a meeting with several businesses. We sort of had a business roundtable meeting here in the boardroom to discuss some positive thoughts about how we can stimulate business within the community. We have a lot of empty stores. We're hoping they're going to be filled up by the summer, but there's no guarantee on that. And what, as a village, we can do to help them. It was a very positive meeting. A lot of suggestions were made. One in particular was to have a consultant. Morley Catroci had said that he had read an article about an area, I think it was up in Westchester, but I'm not, it was Westchester, that had hired a consultant, and the consultant's job was to go around and talk to all the businesses, to evaluate our business district, to take a look at it in the off-season, because everyone admits that in season they have a lot of business, but out of season it's quite a long period of time. It's very tough for them. And what this consultant did in Westchester, he evaluated everything, and then he turned to property owners to discuss what they can do to be able to fill their spaces, and also to work with real estate companies to make sure and to help them get their buildings or their spaces rented. Everyone loved that, and they thought that was pretty positive, and we're going to be looking into see what consultant we can either bring forward, or see if that consultant that they used is possible for us to use. And we're going to be meeting with them again.
Yep. Yeah, this was first of what I think would be several meetings, but it was very productive.
Yeah. It's hard because a lot of our businesses that are seasonal here are geared to a community of second homeowners and people who are used to shopping in more expensive stores. Your local person really doesn't have that extra money to go in and buy. As one woman said, she sent her daughter to a store and the sneakers were $900. So she said, we're not in the market to buy $900 sneakers for my child. So, that forces those families to go west, because we don't have enough stores here to service the local community. That was brought up. And also it was brought up that the more stores we have and the more spaces that are filled, the more people will come into our village. If we don't have a lot of retail, why would they bother? But they also asked us about sewage treatment. They were very much in favor of sewage treatment because they felt that sewage treatment would bring in more restaurants, which creates vibrancy within the community, and vibrancy creates the businesses, sales in the businesses, because people eat and then they go shopping. So all of that was discussed. They were upset that we didn't move forward with sewage treatment. They realized that there were a certain group of people who did not want it because they, as they said, there's a group of people here who really do not want any change to our village whatsoever. They want it to remain a sleepy, quiet village. And if you do that, most of the village, if that continues, more businesses are going to go out of business. And, you know, they have great concern over that.
That's what they're looking for. Thank you, Trustee McGann. Trustee Hattrick.
Commend you on addressing that subject, and I wish you all the luck in the world, because success is killing Southampton by the looks of it. Other than that, I haven't heard anything worth repeating that you haven't heard before, and I'll wait till next.
No jokes?
That's what I mean. The mirth is has to wait till our next meeting.
Okay.
No good jokes.
I've always got some, but just don't
force it out of them.
don't get me irrational that I go over the guidelines.
We'll leave you alone.
Yeah.
Mum's the word. The two things I really had to point out is I think we had two very successful meetings. We, as Nancy McGann has pointed out, we had a terrific meeting with the retail stores in the village, and a lot of good stuff came out of it. A lot of stuff we knew, but also we've gotten some ideas on how to address some of the issues, from high rents to low activity, and how to keep people in the village and keep the walking traffic around. So overall, I thought it was a very, very good meeting, and it will continue, and we'll get some more input, and hopefully by summer we'll see some of these stores coming back. The other one I thought tonight was the landscapers meeting and the leaf blower meeting. Great input from the general public, great input from the landscapers, and I think everybody is in full agreement that during the summer months, the noise levels that you get in the village these days is really, it's turned into a health issue more than anything else. And between the dust and stuff that the blowers churn up and the noise, a lot of people just have just about given up. I saw a couple of notes of some people that you know, and I was, wow. They were a little irate. So I think the landscapers understand it. They're customers. They realize the importance of satisfying them. And, you know, I got to say, the landscapers keep the village of Southampton looking absolutely beautiful. There's no question about it. They're all very capable guys, and I think that the licensing and stuff will help protect them and help us regulate who's in the village. So overall, I think both meetings were very, very good. And
one thing, maybe I could just add, I'm just thinking about that with the landscapers, you know, I think maybe one positive out of this it will create a new paradigm, a new business model that, you know, that has to, because they pretty much say it's equipment they would prefer not to use. Some of them actually came out and said if they could not, but the client, you know, it's what the market bears. So perhaps this will force the hand if everybody has to unilaterally apply the same practice. Maybe that's what's required, to just change the business model where they're not going to have to worry about getting every blade across.
Yeah, no, I think you're
like the old
100%
days,
right.
So hopefully, I would like to think that would be the decider.
And I think our action is proactive. We may be a little ahead of the time in regards to the equipment that's available. But I think very shortly, you'll see electric-powered leaf blowers that...
Clearly, it's the trend and it's out there.
Yep.
Yeah,
It is. So I'm very pleased that there were 2 very successful meetings, and I think the village looks great, and the Parks Department, the Highway Department, have all done a great job, and thank God we didn't get snow the other day. We only got rain. That would have been quite a bit of snow.
A hell of a lot of wind, though.
Yeah, and
I'd also like to make a comment that it came up that if everyone is required to use that, the municipality should be required as well. Just so the public knows, we do have a lot of battery pack blowers. We have been trying to, anything that we purchase, we're going in that direction, and our guys are using them. So it's not just that we're running around with gas-powered weed whackers and gas-powered blowers. No, we are actually purchasing the other battery pack ones, and we're moving in that direction as well.
But I do agree with them that we have to lead by example. I think we did an inventory, we're at 50%, and quite frankly, after hearing about the health impacts tonight, we shouldn't be using them near our playground. I mean, it really shouldn't happen. And quite frankly, I learned from all these meetings and discussions, as we all do, but I agree with you, Nancy. I think we need to be ahead of the curve.
I just didn't want the public to think that we don't do it at all, and we do.
Yes, we do.
Because we don't go around talking about it. I mean, it's just the same that we use all organic fertilizers or anything that we need. It's all organic that we use. We have been doing that for probably as long as I've been on the board, and that's 14 years. The public needs to know that. I mean, and...
well, Julie has a great photo of me in an electric mower.
Yeah, the demonstration.
The mower looked good.
We had that last spring, met up with several electrical, I guess, what do you call it, electric device manufacturers. So it's pretty impressive, yeah.
Now the village is making strides in that direction, and we will be shortly pretty much all electric. So...
But you do have to plug them in.
You do have to plug them in.
And when you plug them in, there is fossil fuel used to give us our electricity.
Yeah.
So the one thing you don't have is, at least where they're blowing or where they're using it, the particles are not flying in the air. And that was your concern about the playgrounds.
Yeah.
Yes, the particles, and also the sound. Yes, some individuals had commented that the sound was the same, except the sound on gas leaf blowers travel much further than they do on electric, which we saw when we went and got the very good tour in West Hampton, was it, by John Irwin and the town of Southampton?
Yeah, yep.
It's just unbelievable how the sound dies on the electric. So the particulates, the noise.
And the mowers, when they go 50 yards away from you, you really can't hear them.
Right.
Not that I can hear much anyway, but it's... What?
Okay.
Okay. Second public comment. Anybody have a comment? Anybody from the public? With that, a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing legal matters and personnel matters involving village employees.
Second.
Aye. All in favor?
Aye.